Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. These podcasts are brought to you in part by our sponsors, who really truly are what make these podcasts possible every week. O'Fallon Nutrition is a company that I've worked with for over 15 years. They're independently owned and operated, located here in O'Fallon, Missouri, right off of Highway K and Mexico Road. I call this place the Whole Foods of St. Charles County, but even if you are not located on this side of the river, it is still worth the drive. I can remember working all the way down at Powerhouse and still sending people out to O'Fallon Nutrition for their supplements. They are more than a supplement company. You can get grass-fed beef, salad dressing, seasoning for your cooking, hair care products, makeup, deodorant, toothpaste, essential oils, and all the vitamins and minerals that you can think of. If you're looking for clean, whole food nutrition, as well as home care, house care, skincare products, O'Fallon Nutrition is your place. You can take a look at them at o'fallonnutrition.com, or if you'd like to have something shipped, if you're listening to me from outside of St. Louis, you can certainly have items shipped. I know they do free shipping if it's an order over $50, and the phone number is 636-240-5283. Again, it's o'fallonnutrition.com. As well as if preparing your food on a weekly basis is your primary excuse for why you're not able to stay on a good, clean eating program, which is something that I hear very regularly from my clients, I would ask you to please take the time to check out Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com. They are a phenomenal place. We get our food from there during the week. They deliver to our Integrity location. They will deliver to your house. They also are just available for pickup. You can go to their Chesterfield location or their Kirkwood location and just pick up meals for the day, as well as just having them delivered right to your door. So if preparing your food is your main excuse for why you cannot stay on a healthy eating program, then I would suggest just stop by Pure Plates. Just try it. If you're trying to lower your blood pressure, you're trying to lower your cholesterol, you're trying to get your blood sugar down, try to do Pure Plates meals for a week and just see how different you feel. These are organic meals. They are gluten-free. If you need them to be, they can be dairy-free. They are soy-free. You're not taking any processed sugars or meat-curing agents or preservatives. They really, truly believe in nutrient-dense meals that are just whole food nutrition. And I've had my clients, or I've made recommendations for my clients for years at Pure Plates. It's pureplatesstl.com, or you can call them to ask questions at 636-778-3555. Again, remembering that they have a location in Chesterfield as well as in Kirkwood that you can just run by and pick up a meal today. Everyone always asks me where I get my meat from, and given that I really eat meat on a daily basis, typically beef primarily, my meat is very important to me. I have an autoimmune condition and I want grain-free, corn-free meat, and I just haven't found the confidence in stores in knowing that I'm getting 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And I have searched and searched and searched for the right farm, and I have found the farm. It's fedfromthefarm.com, fed, F-E-D, from thefarm.com. These farmers are amazing. It's a family. They're here in Missouri, and they have the desire, just like I do, to see people well and to see people healthy, and they put a lot into what they do. It's such a wonderful family to support. They do offer 100% grass-finished, grass-fed, meaning that's it. A beef, and I get my ribeyes, I get my ground beef, my ground sirloin, I get my chuck roast. I mean, they basically have everything. They even have awesome jerky, but they also have eggs, they have chickens, and they have turkey. I'm planning on getting a turkey for Thanksgiving, and if you'd like lamb, they have that as well. But if you are in need of good quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or quality eggs, chicken, turkey, don't just settle for what you're getting at the local store. to go out on the internet and check out Fed from the Farm. That you can arrange a pickup or you can have it delivered to your home. And I can guarantee you're going to taste the difference. For me, my health actually depends on it. So I really thank God to have found such a great farmer. Fedfromthefarm.com. I hope it blesses you.
Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Hey everybody, this is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Always like to start by talking to you about what it means to be a warrior, and the definition of a warrior is a brave or experienced soldier or a fighter. And I think it's important that the oars are there, as I say each week, because that's actually what allows us to all be a warrior. We may not be brave and we may not be a soldier in the military, but most of us are experienced and we've all been through a thing or two. So, that's actually what makes you a warrior. And if you've had to overcome anything in your life, then you are a warrior. You might not feel like it. You might think you're weak. You might think that there's so many people stronger than you and better than you, but the reality is, you are where you are. If you're a professional fighter, you're fighting in the pros. If you're not a professional or an amateur, you're fighting in the amateurs so you can get good enough to fight in the pros. So when things are thrown at you that are hard, just realize it's making you stronger. And, with Easter having just happened, it's good to recognize the greatest warrior that we've ever seen, and that's actually Jesus. And what's neat about that is Jordan Peterson says that men who have swords and keep them sheathed shall inherit the world. And he also says that men should be dangerous and capable of violence. And he was being interviewed one day, and this guy says, okay, so to say that, you think that I should provoke people and come at them violently? And he says, no, I believe you should be able to. And he says that to have the virtue of not being violent means that you have to be violent and choose not to. You're not violent and you walk around and say, no, I'm peaceful, you're not actually peaceful, you're just weak. And so what he means by that is you should have a capacity for fighting. We're not just talking about violence here. You need to have a capacity for actually getting through your day. If you wake up every day and think, I can't make it through today, I'm too tired, I have too many things going on, I can't do this, you're probably right. But if you wake up and you say, okay, I have the capacity to tackle this day, to take this day on, I can do that. And the reason Jesus was the greatest warrior is if you really think about the have a sword and keep it sheathed philosophy, when he was waiting to be crucified and he was in the garden, he does actually pray, and it's interesting because a lot of people, they don't think about it like this, but if you're going to be in a fight and you have to get punched in the face to stay in the fight, you don't really want to get punched in the face, but you're willing to let it happen because you have to win the fight. Well, Jesus was the same way. He basically asked God, could you take this on for me? If it's your will that this be done, then we can be it done. But if not, if you take this cup from me, that'd be fine. But I can do this, And so the point with that is that you may not have something that you want to do, but I promise you're capable of doing it if you just go through with it. And so what happens is it's Jesus' destiny to do this. So the Romans send basically their special forces to take Jesus out, which if you research, that is pretty cool. I mean, if you're not worried about someone, why would you send the people that you sent? And they say that they're there for Jesus, and Jesus says, I am he. And these men immediately hit their knees. And so when you think about this moment, Jesus actually has the capacity to strike them all down. And he doesn't. He says, I'll go with you. And so they take him. And through the entire process of what ultimately leads to Easter from Good Friday, he allows people that are weaker than him to do what needs to be done for him to accomplish what he's supposed to accomplish. And he hangs on the cross, again, with the capacity, but he chooses not to act upon it. So what does all of this mean for you? First off, I don't think any of us really go through something as bad as being crucified. And second off, if you choose to just look at everything that comes at you in life as something you're able to overcome, it might not be easy. It probably won't be easy. Then you'll have a higher chance of being successful than if you do the latter and you just sit around and think that you won't be. And when you think about the things that attack you in the valley, everybody's always like, I'm in such a bad place and something else came at me. I like to think about David and Goliath. And if you research where the battle of David and Goliath actually happened, which is Googleable, they can tell you historically where it was at. It talks about him fighting Goliath in the valley. And if you look at the craggly rocks of the plateaus and mountaintops around the area, that's where it says Goliath's people were waiting and Goliath was coming down from. Now, if you know the story of David and Goliath, you know that David drops Goliath with a slingshot. Well, the only way a slingshot is going to work short of a miraculous scenario from God is in an open plain. You're not going to land a slingshot rock through trees, through rocks, through crags. If they had been fighting on the mountaintop or the sides of these steps, Goliath, pound for pound, height advantage would have won. Again, God being able to do whatever he wants to do, but, faith without works. So David had the faith, he put in the work. God allowed him to put in the work with a stone. What I'm trying to say is, you may be attacked by some of your biggest demons, by your biggest problems while you're already at your lowest point, but you're being trained. God told David he was meant to be a king, but instead of giving him a crown, he gave him Goliath. So whatever you're dealing with right now, it's probably going to prepare you for something that you're capable of doing later in life that you have to accomplish.
I also think the reason why we stand on the warrior motto the way that we do is because it's inevitable that you need to find a path to condition yourself for hardship and for challenge. And just for complications. It's not that we're claiming that for our life or that we, have a negative mindset and that we're expecting, something bad. But I mean, it's somewhat unrealistic to not expect that something like that's coming, because it is coming. And the Bible says to endure hardship culture. And so we've just decided to train people and to condition them to be strong like a soldier, to be strong like a warrior, and to use that armor of God and to deflect all of the enemy's tactics on a regular basis. And one of those tactics being a weakened mind, and that mind can be weak from the food that we eat. It can be weak from the drinks that we drink. It can be weak from the things that we allow ourselves to listen to and we allow ourselves to watch, and how we just turn our cheeks to, oh, it's okay to listen to this or it's okay to listen to that. And it just basically sets ourselves up for a situation where we're just a little bit more lukewarm each day to our beliefs. And the reality is that we can do that in so many areas of our life. We can become a little bit more comfortable with eating bad food, a little bit more comfortable with drinking the wrong things, a little bit more comfortable with adding the wrong sauces, a little bit more comfortable with listening to the wrong music or listening to the wrong stuff on TV. And then all of a sudden our priorities and what our focus is on is not as sharp. Our blade is becoming more and more dull. So at Integrity, what we've always done is equip people, equip them to the best of our ability to be a warrior. And that's taking that mighty, servant, strong approach in all areas of your life. And when you are super focused on your food and focused on your exercise, it will ultimately just end up dominoing into other areas of your life. You'll be more disciplined in your finances. You'll be more disciplined in your relationships and the way that you communicate. And when you're strengthening your body and strengthening yourself through your nutrition, your mind will be stronger because of that. And then ultimately relationships will be stronger because of that. So what we're suggesting when we suggest, comparing things to Jesus and we're suggesting being a warrior, we're doing it not because we're trying to, stand on some sort of, act like we're better or we're somehow, stronger than anybody else. We're actually doing it because we've had to endure so much hardship, because over the years, so many different types of things have happened to ourselves, to our clients, to our employees, and we just had to find a way to equip people better so that they were ready for the battle and that they were fighting the enemy with the Lord's tactics and really fighting with an equipped body, a strong mind and an equipped body. And they do that through proper nutrition and through proper exercise. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com, or for a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. We just got done talking about what it means to be a warrior and why we operate the way we do in our business and try to create a warrior mindset. And I believe that to be a warrior, it is actually mind, body, and spirit. So when you're strengthening yourself, a lot of times what you're going to find is that there are people who have one area that's really strong, one area that's kind of mediocre, and one area that's weak. And sometimes, it feels rude to say the word weak, but it just means that that might not be your greatest area. And sometimes there's actually a legitimate block that prevents you. Your physical aspect might be your weakest aspect because you have a disability. Maybe your legs don't work properly. Maybe your arms don't work properly. Maybe you have an autoimmune condition. So what happens is a lot of times you hear this statement, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and that's true, but you can pull your weakest link up in these scenarios by strengthening everywhere else. So what I challenge people to do is you really want to tackle all three to the best of your capacity, mind, body, and spirit. Like, what is your weakest area and can it be strengthened? And then if it can't, what can you do to strengthen the other two? I'll give you an example. A lot of times in our industry, what you'll find is somebody will be trucking along and they'll be doing their food and they'll be doing their exercise, they'll be doing pretty good, and they'll get hurt. So maybe they roll an ankle or maybe they break a wrist or something happens that injures them. Well, what they should do is take the time of having to step away from that physicality and tighten up their mind and really lock their nutrition in, because that's going to be all they actually have control over. But what happens a lot of times is people get down and upset that they're hurt, and now their mind goes. And then they think, well, I'm hurt anyway, and I don't really feel good, so why don't I just give myself bad food? I deserve this. I can't even work out anyway. And what has happened is you've gotten so hung up on the variable that has left your control that you're actually losing control of the variables that you had control over. And it's fascinating because people will then say, well, I'm just doing all of this because, I can't exercise right now. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't prevent all of these other things you could still be doing to be better and feel better. And so the reason we tackle that so strong is we just believe that it takes that unity of that Trinity to be capable of being as successful as God has called you to be. I mean, you go to church and you strengthen your spirituality. I mean, are you only doing that once a week? How many more times can you do that? Are you opening your Bible? Are you studying to be more spiritual? How are you training your mind? Are you just going to the 9-to-5 grind at work and then coming home and staring at the paint on the wall? Are you reading? Are you trying to learn something new? Are you stimulating your brain? How are you training your body? Are you doing cardio? Are you working out? Are you eating clean? What are you doing to actually strengthen your entire person? Or are you just kind of going through those motions?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all get hung up on the busyness of life.
It's easy to do.
We might have traumatic situations that occur. You may be experiencing loss. You might be going through the stresses of finances or just business circumstances. But what I've found is that the deeper I am in my food and the deeper I am in my exercise, I mean, the better I deal with those stresses. I can remember my both of my parents having heart attacks. My dad was in the hospital for 41 days, and I meet with clients regularly that tell me, "Well, I was at the hospital this weekend, so my food went to where because I was at the hospital." And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I've never once gone to a hospital and decided that since I'm at the hospital, I'll
Right.
just go ahead and eat this cafeteria food. I just know how I would feel if I did that. I know how sick I would get if I did that. So I would either fast until I could get to the food, or I would have something delivered in,
Right.
or I would go down to that cafeteria and only eat what I could eat, or I would literally get a cooler and I would slam everything I could see in my refrigerator into that cooler and I would fly out the door. And I've had two emergency circumstances, even three, because our good dear friend had a heart attack. And all I did was I just went to the pantry and I went to the refrigerator and I just threw food into a cooler so that I could be okay. Now, I mean, the reality is that it's a pretty valid reason for me to screw up on my food.
Right.
My dad it was a life or death situation, but I didn't. And what I found is that the folks that were there, that were with me, they did. I mean, they were eating all over the place and drinking all the coffees and all the different things that, were available, the hot cocos, all the things. And I just saw it wear on them as time went on. In these stressful circumstances, we've got to put ourselves in a position where we set ourselves up we got to be equipped, and it really makes it to where I can deal with these circumstances
Right.
stronger. And I've noticed it with clients, when I tell them, listen, you've got to keep this area strong. You've got to keep yourself moving. I know you're dealing with stuff at work. I know you're dealing with stuff in your relationships. It doesn't matter. You've got to get up. You've got to get your workout in. You've got to get up. You've got to get your walking in. You've got to get your food prepared. If you don't do these things, you're not going to be okay.
And you said this. You said you had valid reasons. And what's interesting about excuses and reasons are the only thing that separates them is other people's opinion of what causes it.
Right.
If you think about that, your own opinion is what makes it a reason. Someone else's opinion, if you can get them on board, makes it a good reason. But if you tell someone something, a lot of times what you'll find is if someone tells you something, you might be like, yeah, okay, right. Well, I still had to do it. A lot of times that's what they're actually thinking. So here's what I want to reframe your brain to think of if you're listening to this about validation. Validity doesn't mean necessity. So if you think about that, it doesn't mean that just because something's valid that you should act upon it. What it actually means is, and what's necessary is to not rely on what feels valid. What's necessary is to do something that goes above and beyond that, where people think you're crazy or how did you pull that off through all of this? I can't believe you did that like this. Because what does it always relate to? They say, I can't believe you overcame that and came through that as well as you did. Well, you might not have. But what you did is you didn't let that valid reasoning bring you down as well. Because at the end of those things that you're giving on, you end up not feeling well. Maybe you ate bad food. Maybe you didn't sleep enough. Maybe you didn't take care of yourself. Like most times, if you have to make a valid reason or excuse for something, what's on the back end of doing it isn't beneficial to you.
That's good. That's great perspective on that for sure. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com, or for a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to you from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. Just kind of wrapped up talking to you about the trinity of the mind, body, spirit, and how to remain strong through what you do, even through the validity of having something that gives you the right to not do well on strengthening those three, or continuing with the disciplinary tactics that you put into your life to be well. And I think it's important to recognize, like I just said, validity comes from other people a lot of times. And the only people that you should really worry about validity from are God and maybe your spouse. You know, and the thing is, if you're equally yoked, as long as you're looking for validity from God, your spouse is going to be on board with you. And when you start looking outside of that and you start thinking that something's okay because other people think it's okay, that's what starts to set you up to not do so well. And I believe the Bible says that iron sharpens iron, and to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. So if you know that you want to be healthy and those around you tell you that it's okay not to be, you might be with the wrong people. If you know that you want to have the discipline to accomplish anything, maybe you're wanting to start your own business and you really feel firmly that you're supposed to do that, and you feel in your spirit you're supposed to do that, and the people you're telling are saying, you probably shouldn't do that. Like, are you sure you're good enough at that? Then you may have picked the wrong person to tell that to. You know, and so when I say surround yourself with like-minded individuals, it's like if you're trying to better yourself, you want to find people that are also currently bettering themselves. And that's going to help you with the mind, body, spirit idea is, if I can find other people that are trying to be better, then I'll be better. And I would honestly rather be the slowest person in a race that I'm in than the fastest, not needing to run any faster because I'm already winning, because you never get anywhere with that.
I mean, I know for me, I remember when we're going on 10 years now. Basically, May the 15th is 10 years in our location in Wing Haven, which is just such a blessing. I mean, I just feel so incredibly blessed that we were able to do that through COVID. Multiple gyms that I've worked at in my lifetime. I mean, literally, 3 gyms have closed down that I've worked at. One of them was bought out and turned into a completely different type of company. So that's 4 gyms that are shut down in that time frame. Actually, I'm sorry, that there was one in Ladue as well. There's 5 gyms that have shut down over that 10-year period of time, and we're still in business. And it just feels so fortunate. We feel so fortunate to be able to do what we do. But we've created this environment where everyone can flourish. It doesn't matter what your goal is. It doesn't matter
Correct.
what your situation is. You flourish because everyone is iron is sharpening iron inside that place.
Right.
And so in the beginning of my career, prior to the 10 years, when I worked for 24-Hour Fitness, worked for the General Motors Fitness Center, worked for Main Street Gym, and then worked for Powerhouse. And I worked for Powerhouse for almost 10 years. And in that career, I was very much a lone wolf. There were not a lot of people that got there at 4:30 in the morning and they were walking out the door to leave at 8:30 at night and hadn't left and basically stayed there. And then the little breaks that I had, I was working out on those breaks. And people just didn't relate to me because I usually made the standard have to get raised higher. And so if you worked for a company, you didn't really like me very much because I was the one that didn't feel like people should be leaning up against equipment or drinking their protein shakes while training people or stirring up a coffee and drinking it while being on the floor while standing next to somebody training. And so rules ended up getting changed because of me, because I would go to owners and say, this doesn't look professional. That doesn't look professional. We should change this. We should change that. And before I know it, I would be leading teams. But what was often always, that's a long way of explaining what was often always stated, and even John has said this before, is that, I'm a robot. I'm basically like part machine. I don't have a turn off button. Like my power doesn't go down, and it does. I do get tired and I do get sick, and there are things that happen. But in that case, when you have that mindset and when you're standing in a place and you're looking around and, you're in a gym that's 30,000 square feet and you're holding yourself to a high standard, you can feel isolated. You can feel alone in those circumstances. And I know for me, it is difficult to find and meet people that are willing to go to the lengths that I'm willing to go. I'm willing to work every single day if I need to, if it means serving the call, if it means serving the purpose, if it means serving the vision.
You know what's interesting about that is I don't think I've ever met a successful person that doesn't tell you at some point in time they felt alone or weird.
Absolutely.
It's like every single success story comes from a weird, like you almost like you second guess yourself at one point.
Yes.
And like when I say you're robotic, like that's a complete compliment. Like people might be like, oh, what's that supposed to mean? Like that's a compliment. What it means is like where most people break, there's like a robotic strength. It's like I have broken before Debbie has before, and I'm a pretty strong person, but success comes on the backside of being willing to work that hard. And that's training. You've disciplined yourself to be able to do that.
And it's a long-winded way of saying almost a year ago in May, we went out on a dinner date with friends of ours. They've been friends of ours. I've known them for a long time. And, I've always wanted to do something like this, but the husband in this couple, was telling us about this unrequired workout that he does, and he does it every single day. And I said, well, don't people give you trouble for overtraining? And he was like, I don't listen to people. He's like, I just, I know what I need to do for me, and that's what I do. And the reality is that I knew I needed something like that because I needed an escape mentally from from thinking that I had to have this very specific framework with a workout, very specific framework with timing. And I wanted the space where I could get lost in a workout and not think about numbers or not think about certain circumstances. So I set up, a program that I call the Extra Mile. And my reason for mentioning that is not to mention the extra mile or to mention that I work out 7 days a week. It's to mention that I saw someone else that was very successful in their business, in their relationships, in their body, in their eating, and all the things. And that influenced me. It influenced me to think that it was possible that I could start taking things to a different level. Now, if I had asked the majority, like when we were talking about validity, I could have gotten validation from everyone around me that I didn't need to do anything else. Right. In fact, that's probably all the validation I would have received was, how can you add one more thing? You have 2 businesses, you have a daughter, you have a husband, you have 4 dogs. You don't need to add one more thing. Is that really the right thing you should do with an autoimmune disease? I feel great having started it, both mentally and physically, but I could have gotten the validation to not do it. But what's really hard is finding the validation to do it and to keep doing it. So I also joined a business group called Arte, and even that has helped to hold me to a higher standard because the 2 business owners that run that group have really led me into a different way of thinking or a different way of seeing things. And they've also made it possible to where I just simply didn't feel as isolated because I realize there are other people out there that are going through and dealing with the same things. So when you're in these situations where you know you need improvement, okay, you need to change your food, you need to change your exercise, you need to change the way you're handling your relationship, you need to get in faith and press in stronger. You have to find the formula for that influence. That influence changed my life. My life will be changed forever because of that influence. The influence of this group has changed our business. That changes all of our employees. So what do you need? Who do you need to gain that influence from? And just because it's free and it's available on Instagram does not mean it's the right influence. I mean, I pay monthly for this influence that I'm getting. It sometimes it's very necessary to invest in that proper influence.
I think the thing about receiving advice, like, Debbie's not telling you to not get advice from other people. You should always be growing. You should always be learning. But what you want to do is you want to think about, like, is the advice being given to you something that just makes it easier? Like, if you're listening because it's easier, like, oh, don't start your business, that's pretty hard, I don't know if you'll be able to do that. Or are you sure you should work out like that? Like, do you really think that's a good idea for your health? Well, if they're not a health coach and they're not a doctor and they're not someone that studies that at all, it's an opinion about you overworking.
Even if they might be trying to sell you a program.
And that's right. It could be a program. It could be wrong. So you have to discern that. The Holy Spirit's inside of you, discern that. But if you can't discern, then ask yourself, like, is what they're telling you, like, does it feel appropriate? And do you feel like it's being told because it's easier? Like, is it something that they would prefer because it's easier? Is it something that you may prefer because it's easier? You deserve to have whatever you want to eat on the weekends. No, you deserve to be as healthy as you are if you don't do that. That's what you deserve. And so many people get hung up on that. Like, yeah, I just feel like trash throughout the week. And it's like, what did you do on Saturday and Sunday? Yeah, but is that really going to affect me till Thursday? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, like, that's the whole thing, is like, what you deserve is to be well, but we're so conditioned to deserve. And at the end of the day, you don't really deserve anything.
The easy way doesn't pay well.
Right.
It just doesn't.
Never does. I mean, that's why I said everybody that I've ever met that's successful has felt lonely, and a lot of times has been told they're crazy or they're going to make the wrong decision. Ed Milet is about to be a billionaire. He's pretty close to being worth $1 billion. And he said that, things can be logical and be wrong. He was told when he started to leave real estate, which I believe it was real estate he was really good at. Life insurance, was that it? And he was going to go into, like, keynote speaking and some other things. Everybody was like, you're nuts. Like, you're so good at this. You're making money. Like, that is not a good idea. And he was like, and they were right until I was.
Right.
And then, they were telling him, you need to sell that house before you buy that other house. You're going to get stuck in it. And he's like, the way the market was, like, they were right until I was.
Right.
So his whole point is, like, follow your dreams. Like, if you sincerely think you want to do something, you can accomplish it. That belief is actually really powerful. He talks about bending reality. Like, having confidence bends reality. So if you're confident about pursuing something that's actually going to make you better, you need to get after it. Don't let yourself be swayed by someone else's opinion.
And when I say it doesn't pay well, I'm not just talking about money. Money's part of it. It doesn't pay well
right.
when you're trying the easy way. But I'm talking about
Paying
fulfillment.
off.
I'm talking about peace. I'm talking about strong relationships, strength, courage, all the things you want. It just doesn't pay well when you take the easy road. When you take the high road, when you take the stronger road, it will pay off. It'll be so worth it in the end. For more information about what we do at Integrity Training Systems, for a 6-month nutrition program or a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com.
Welcome back, everybody. John and Debbie Morris with Integrity Training Systems on Real Talk 93.3. We're talking a lot about like just not listening to other people's opinions if they're not something that's positive or going to work for you, and talking about deciding to do what you want to do, even if it's going to make you a loner, and what you do or don't deserve. And I just think we live in such a world right now that tells you so many things you deserve, but they don't tell you what it takes to get there. You know, it's like they're trying to give you the dessert before you eat your protein. They're trying to give you retirement before you've even worked. We live in such a dopamine-giving society. We're so used to scrolling and flicking and flicking and flicking, and if we don't like it, we flick, and if we do like it, we still only watch it for 17 seconds. Why work hard? I was talking to a guy the other day about jiu-jitsu, a younger guy, and he's getting ready to do this group I'm getting ready to start with me, and the whole purpose of the group is to build godly men who are warriors, warrior ready. And I was explaining to him, you know, he does jujitsu and he hasn't been going. He's actually in kind of a funk in life. And he says he's addicted to food and he's addicted to scrolling. And so he's sitting at home and he's eating bad food and scrolling Instagram. And I said, well, yeah, you're getting a dopamine response, changing your neurotransmitters by what you're consuming. And you're also getting it from scrolling. The same success that you would get from jujitsu to create that same dopamine response is hard. It is going to sweat. It's hard work. You're probably going to get choked, okay? But at the end of the jiu-jitsu, you are now a more qualified combatant to protect your family. You have a skill set. At the end of the bad food and Instagram, you have nothing but cholesterol issues and diabetes. And so you're completely just giving yourself the same neurological release, but you're not deserving of it. You haven't put the work in, and no skill comes from it. Like you were saying in the last segment, Deb, as far as payoff, there is no payoff. Nobody is going to lay in their deathbed 10, 20, 30, 60 years from now and say, man, I wish I would have scrolled TikTok more. Nobody is going to say that. I mean, and if they do, like, okay, like I'll accept that I'm wrong and I'll apologize, but I don't see it. You know, you may look back and say, I wish I had learned to play the guitar. I wish I had gotten better at jiu-jitsu. I wish I had worked harder. I wish I would have spent more time with my family. But if you're dumping minutes upon hours of your life into something that you do not think you would regret missing out on when you're on your deathbed, you might want to recalibrate where you're spending your time.
I would say that's kind of a big part of the problem is that, you know, you have people that need change. They're coming to you because they're trying to be equipped for that change. But they have all these weapons of mass distraction everywhere that they turn, you know, and unfortunately our phone, social media, scrolling, it is definitely an aspect of that. I mean, shoot, you can be focused on an eating plan and you can scroll and you can see something and that can prompt you to want to eat something. And unfortunately, it's an unfortunate reality. So when I say something, I mean, I actually have this posted on my desk. It says the easy way doesn't pay well. When I say something like that, it's because I'm going all the way back to the first segment and I'm trying to equip you to be a warrior. I'm trying to have you not fear it being hard. We're so set up to want some type of a program that's easy, but I'm actually not trying to sell you that. I'm trying to sell you something that might actually be hard. It might actually be difficult, and you are going to be stronger when you come out of it. You're going to be better because of how much harder it is. You're going to be able to change someone else's life because you changed your own. Every part of that effort is going to be worth it for you.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when like people talk about how hard Debbie is and like, man, she just doesn't relent. And it's like, what did you pay her for? Like, did you pay her to have a friend that you could sit down in an office with and just say, hey, that's really okay that for the entire 6 months that you've worked with me, that you didn't get anywhere near your goal. You didn't lose any weight. You didn't get off any medication. You didn't learn to work faster. But I'm proud of you. Like, you don't got to pay for that. Every other person walking this earth will give you that. You know, like they'll tell you that it's okay to eat what you eat and it's okay to have drinks. Like, you're paying someone to make you better. The whole point is to get assistance with making you better. That's the whole point of integrity. Yes. It's an accountability. It's teaching you what to do properly for your body. I'm getting ready to start a men's group, and we're going to meet at least in the beginning once a month. And the concept is iron sharpening iron. I've actually named it Mighty Men of Integrity Warriors for Christ. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to equip men to be capable of working together to sharpen each other. And I don't care what you're coming from. Are you 20 years old? Are you 70 years old? Have you had a hard life? Have you not? Have you been in prison? I mean, I don't care what you've done. God sent Jesus to die for every one of us. And so you got to surround yourself with people like that to lift you up together, to work hard and to believe that there's something on the other side of just the normal 9-to-5 grind. You know, I was talking to somebody, a friend of ours, this weekend. They came over and we were spending the evening together. And I love talking with him because he's a harder worker than me, plain and simple, you know, and I'm a pretty hard worker, but the guy's got me. And so I enjoy talking to him. And it was funny because we were talking about free time. And he was like, man, don't you just love being lazy? And I started laughing. I'm like, I mean, who doesn't? He's like, I love being lazy. He's like, everybody talks about the grind. They think I grind 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. He's like, but I don't. And when it comes time to sit down and just watch TV or something on my weekends, he's like, I love it. Sometimes I take a nap because I love it. And I'm like, here's the problem. Everybody loves it, but they're not willing to put in the work to deserve that moment. So many people, they want, but they don't put in the work to get it. And then they're upset that they don't have it. Meanwhile, everybody thinks that his grind is even bigger than it is. Now, don't get me wrong. He is grinding, but it's just interesting to hear somebody say that. And you're talking about having free time. And here's the thing. Grant Cardone says free time is the breeding ground of anxiety unless you have accomplished all you're supposed to accomplish. And so like someone like my friend, he has busted his chops for years. And then Monday through Friday, he busts his chops. He's working so hard. So when he takes that free time on the weekend, he's not anxious about what he needs to be doing. He's not anxious about not having accomplishment. He's not depressed about literally doing nothing with his life. He's actually resting.
Yeah.
So when you say you deserve your free time and you deserve your free time and your rest from what? Like, what are you doing with your life? Nobody will get to the end of their life again and be like, I'm so glad I didn't accomplish something. Like, it's going to take work, guys. Now, you might get to the end of the road and be like, I wish I had rested and hung out with my family more. But the question becomes like, was it that you didn't rest that was the issue? Or was it that you didn't do the things that you needed to do to require or to get that rest because you were slacking off or not getting something accomplished? And that anxiety and that constant behind that you were in because of procrastination made it to where you didn't get that time. It's just things to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, sometimes life is hard, right? Like not everybody gets a fair shake. That's just how it works. You know, so I'm not telling you that, you know, it's only your problem. I get it. There's people that can't get certain jobs. There's people, but like what I'm saying is regardless of where you are in your station, just keep fighting. It will not get better if you determine that it won't.
I think that's the whole point of this show is no matter where you are, no matter what's been handed to you, take it on like a warrior, battle it like a soldier, and be relentless like a bull. Just refuse to give up. Just refuse. Just say, I will keep trying. I'll try for another job. I'll keep pressing to find a better position. I'll keep putting money away, even though I'm barely making any, but I'll find a way. I'll keep trying to find areas where I can save money. I will keep serving. I will keep helping others. I will stay in the Word of God, and I will use that as my compass and my guide for who I should become and how I should live my life. You know, equip yourself for greatness, but it's these small steps. It's preparing your food. It's getting to the grocery store. It's getting up and walking after you have your meals. It's going to the gym. It's surrounding yourself around other successful people and making all of these items a very consistent priority and not taking no for an answer. You're allowing yourself to negotiate with yourself, and don't allow that. Don't allow yourself to get too lazy. Yeah, if you've done the work and you can get lazy on the weekend, then that's when you get lazy. But don't get lazy in the week. Don't not go to work. Don't not go to the gym. Don't not get your food done. Do what you need to do and stay in the race and work hard hard with all that God has given you. He's blessed you with so much. For more information on what we do at Integrity Training Systems, take a look at integritytrainingsystems.com or give us a call at 636-299-2208. For gluten-free, dairy-free baked goods delivered to your door from my personal bakery, take a look at sophiesbakery.com. And for 100% grass-fed beef, the only meat that the Morris family will eat, take a look at fedfromthefarm.com. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless.